I'd like to read to you a story that I wrote August 22nd, 2016. I wrote this story to share what happened that day and what it was like to be in my shoes the night that I almost lost my life. I titled it Tormented by Deception. June 5th, 2016 began just like any ordinary day. My husband told me he would be leaving at 4:30 p.m. to see his sponsor, Chip. This was his new sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous. He told me that they were going to go over steps 1, 2, and 3, and that he wouldn't be home until about 8 p.m. So just like any other day, I made dinner, got the kids ready for bed. Once everyone was in bed, I laid on the bed and started watching the movie Joy. About halfway or more through the movie, he came home. I noticed he seemed more happy than usual. He was late, over an hour. He pounced onto the bed and said something along the lines of, "Sorry I'm late. I didn't realize the time. I finished steps 1, 2, and 3. He got ready for bed and finished watching the movie with me. When the movie ended, he asked me to have sex with him. I told him I just started my period. He said, "Never mind. I don't want to shower. I'm going to bed." He rolled over and went to sleep. I got up and started another movie. I had this gut feeling he was lying to me. So, once I knew he was asleep, just before midnight, I grabbed his iPhone. My stomach sank as I used his thumb to unlock his phone, and I was surprised that it worked. My hands began to shake as I went through his phone. I was so nervous that he was going to wake up, and I feared what he would do to me if he caught me. As I suspected, I found he had lied to me. He went to see a woman named Michelle, not his sponsor, Chip. In fact, he never even spoke to Chip that day. I found lots of pictures and information he had been lying to me about for the last year. I took pictures of what I felt I needed. I got out of bed and walked around to his side of the bed. I grabbed the corner of the bedsheet and the blanket and I pulled it off him. He sat straight up, grabbed his glasses, and said something along the lines of, "What's wrong?" I held the phone up and I started questioning him about the dick pictures and pictures of our children that he was sending to random women. He denied sending pictures and we argued about it. He didn't appear to be very alert, so I gave him a little wake-up tap on the shoulder. I gently took his glasses off and tossed them on the bed, just to give myself enough time to move to the other side of the bed. He grabbed his glasses and stood up and put them on. And as he was doing that, I walked around to my side of the bed, near the corner of the wall and the head of the bed. I held his phone up behind me and told him, "Let's give her a call." He darted over to me quickly. I quickly turned my back to him while cradling the phone to my chest. He grabbed me and threw me into the bed. I was completely bent over with my legs under my body. His body was completely over my back. I felt the full weight of his 190 pounds on me. He grabbed the sheet with his left hand and covered my nose and mouth, attempting to smother the life from me. I couldn't breathe, and I began to struggle. I felt a panic come over me, and I tried to wiggle my way out. But the weight of his body kept me in his deadly grip. I recalled his right hand coming over my shoulder and down my arm. He pressed a button on the side of the phone. For the life of me, I couldn't remember how I ended up on the floor, and I'm not sure if I passed out or if I lost consciousness. However, I ended up on the floor with my head facing towards the entrance of my closet. I was down on the ground. He was completely behind me. He took both hands, interlocking them, and placed them directly over my nose and mouth. As he began to suffocate me, he forced my head into his body with extreme force. All I could think about was, "I'm going to die. How am I going to get out of this?" He kneeled on his knees behind me and took my breath away with his homicidal hands. I was completely powerless, and the whole time the iPhone is in front of me on the floor. In an effort to protect myself, blindly, I tossed my hands back to grab something or anything to get him off me. I felt one of my fingers go into his eye. When that happened, I actually told myself I didn't mean to do that. The feeling startled me and it felt gross and caught me off guard. However, it didn't stop him. Instead, he pressed even harder. And as he did it, one of his fingers slipped into my mouth and I bit down. And I didn't let go until he finally released his savage hands from my face. At that point, I was either pushed or I fell forward, gasping for air. As I was still trying to breathe, he came along the left side of my body and relentlessly punched me in the back of my head. I tossed the phone aside and he continued to hit me in the back of the head. Then, for no reason at all, he got up, put his shorts on, went to the bathroom, and sat on the bed. I frantically got up and ran to the mirror in the bathroom. I saw my lip busted and bleeding. My face and arms were blistering red, and I had a hematoma on the side of my arm and other scratches and marks on my body. I felt extreme pain in my head, jaw, and neck. I put my hands in my hair, and I felt goose eggs hidden all over the back of my head. After taking inventory of my wounds, I said, "I'm calling the police." He said, "No, let's talk about this." I said, "Let's talk?" He sat on the corner of the bed silently, and I grabbed my phone and said something along the lines of, "I'm done with this. I'm calling the MPs." I called the military police, and they arrived within minutes, arrested him for assault consummated by battery. I've been abused by this man for over 8.5 years. Several incidents of things like this have been reported to the police, military police, and it's always the same story. Something has to be done about the process and way the military decides to pursue domestic violence. It has to stop.